The day had started with tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Alina lay in her hospital bed, exhausted yet glowing with the quiet joy of finally holding her newborn daughter. But that joy kept colliding with the cold, sharp voice of her mother-in-law, Rosa, who paced the room like a storm preparing to break. Rosa had never approved of Alina, and today she seemed determined to make her discomfort everyone's problem. "Get up, we're leaving," she snapped, yanking at Alina's hospital bag. "My son needs rest, and you've already caused enough drama. You're not staying here another minute." Alina clutched her baby closer, her body still aching from labor, her voice barely above a whisper as she tried to reason with Rosa. "The doctor said I need to stay for observation." "Please, the baby." "Oh, don't start with your excuses," Rosa shot back. "I know your type. Always trying to get attention, making a big scene. You should have thought about that before dragging my son into this mess." Alina felt tears prick at her eyes, but before she could respond, Rosa marched to the door, ready to summon a nurse and force the discharge. The room felt too small, the walls closing in, the fear rising in her throat. She knew she couldn't fight Rosa alone. Not like this. Just as Rosa's hand touched the doorknob, there was a sharp knock. The door opened, and a tall, stern-looking man stepped in, someone neither Alina nor Rosa expected to see. It was Dr. Karim, the hospital's chief obstetrician, accompanied by a social worker and a nurse. Rosa froze, her confidence evaporating. "Mrs. Rosa, drive." Karim began calmly, "We received a report of a disturbance. This patient is not to be removed. She and the newborn require medical supervision." Rosa's eyes widened in disbelief, her mouth dropping open. She tried to speak, but words refused to form. The social worker stepped forward, her tone firm yet polite. "This hospital has strict policies. Attempting to force a patient to leave post-delivery is unacceptable. We need you to step aside." And for the first time that day, Rosa was completely silent. She backed away from the door, stunned, as if someone had pulled the ground from beneath her feet. Alina exhaled shakily, relief washing over her as the nurse checked on the baby. The unexpected intervention felt like a lifeline thrown at just the right moment. Rosa had been stopped, decisively. But the phrase that shattered her stubbornness didn't come from the doctor. It came from the social worker, who added with a slight smirk, "You're rushing to the wrong station. The decisions made here are not yours." Rosa blinked, speechless, her face drained of color. It was the perfect metaphor, one she understood instantly. She had no authority, no control, no say. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the media world, another storm was unfolding. JD Vance sat across from Piers Morgan in a studio buzzing with tension. Their interview, intended to be a straightforward discussion, spiraled within minutes. Morgan pressed aggressively, poking, interrupting, twisting words. But Vance held his ground, sharper and more prepared than Morgan expected. The clash intensified, each question growing hotter, each rebuttal sharper. And then it happened. Vance revealed information live on air, exposing Morgan's earlier claims as selective and misleading. The studio fell silent for a second before erupting online. Clips spread instantly across social media. JD Vance decimates Piers Morgan. He exposed him live. Morgan, visibly rattled, attempted to regain control, but the producers stepped in, cutting the segment abruptly. The clash had gone too far. The interview was terminated, and Vance was ushered out, but not before delivering the final blow that sent shockwaves across the internet. Two different battles in two different places, yet both ended the same way, with the person who thought they held all the power suddenly finding themselves speechless. Alina had imagined the day she became a mother would be filled with soft voices, gentle hands, and the warm closeness of family. Instead, the maternity room felt like the center of a storm. Her mother-in-law, Rosa, stood over her like an imposing shadow, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin, angry line. "Pack your things," Rosa ordered, the sharpness in her voice slicing through the fragile calm of the room. "We're leaving now. My son doesn't need you lying around here pretending to be weak." Alina tightened her arms around her newborn, the tiny bundle breathing softly against her chest. She could barely sit up, let alone walk out of the hospital. "Rosa, the doctor said I need to stay," she murmured. "There were complications. I'm not ready to go." Rosa scoffed loudly, grabbing the hospital-issued blanket at the end of the bed and tossing it toward the bag. "Complications? Every woman has complications. You're being dramatic. Let's go before your whining embarrasses the family even more." That sentence pierced Alina's already fragile heart. Her throat tightened as frustration and heartbreak tangled inside her. She knew Rosa had never truly accepted her, but today felt crueler than ever. As Rosa barreled toward the crib, hands outstretched as if she were going to lift the newborn herself, Alina felt a bolt of panic. "Don't touch her," she cried, her voice cracking. For a moment, Rosa froze, shocked that Alina dared raise her voice. Then anger flooded her expression. "I am the grandmother. I have every right to take my granddaughter out of this place if you're too weak to do it yourself." She reached again, and Alina felt terror spike in her chest. Before she could shout again, the door swung open with unexpected force. A tall figure stepped inside, not a nurse, not a doctor she recognized, but someone with authority radiating from every movement. Behind him came a nurse and a woman holding a clipboard. Rosa turned, startled, and instinctively stepped back. The man introduced himself as Dr. Yazir, the hospital director, his tone calm yet weighted with seriousness. "We received a report of interference with a recovering patient," he said, his gaze settling on Rosa. "Is there a reason you are attempting to remove her without medical clearance?" Rosa opened her mouth but no sound came out, the words dissolving before they could form. The nurse approached Alina gently, checking her pulse and the baby's breathing, while the woman with the clipboard, a hospital-appointed patient advocate, addressed Rosa directly. "Ma'am, this is a restricted medical environment. You cannot force a patient to leave, nor can you attempt to handle a newborn without authorization. If you continue, we will be required to escort you out." The stern clarity in her voice seemed to shake Rosa's confidence to its core. But the sentence that truly shattered her came next. The advocate, with a mixture of firmness and pity, said, "You're rushing to the wrong station. Decisions here are made by medical professionals and the patient, not you." It hit Rosa like a slap. She stared blankly, her dominance dissolved, her authority stripped away. For once, she had no arguments, no sharp comebacks. Just silence. While Alina finally breathed in relief, another confrontation was erupting miles away on live television. JD Vance sat across from Piers Morgan, both men locked in a battle of words and egos. The interview had started tense but controlled, until Morgan pushed too far, interrupting, mocking, twisting sentences mid-air. Vance, however, didn't back down. He matched each challenge with precision, exposing contradictions in Morgan's earlier statements, pulling out receipts, and refusing to be cornered. The tipping point came when Vance addressed a claim Morgan had made weeks earlier, revealing live on air that the quote Morgan relied on had been selectively edited. The studio gasped, the crew exchanging wide-eyed glances. Morgan attempted to regain control, but Vance pressed harder, his arguments sharper, his delivery unwavering. "You presented half the truth," Vance said, "and half the truth is still a lie." That sentence exploded online within seconds. Morgan, flustered, signaled the producers, and the tense interview was abruptly cut short. Vance was escorted out, but not before cameras caught Morgan's stunned expression, the look of someone who thought he held all the power, only to watch it slip through his fingers. Two worlds, two confrontations. And in both, the same unexpected twist. The moment the one who tried to dominate found themselves utterly, completely silenced. The ward was quiet except for the faint hum of machines and the soft breaths of newborns sleeping behind thin curtains. Alina lay weakly against her pillow, her body still trembling from the long, difficult labor she had endured just hours earlier. She should have been resting, celebrating, absorbing the miracle of her child. Instead, she found herself staring at her mother-in-law, Rosa, who stood at the foot of her bed like a thundercloud ready to burst. Rosa's hands were planted firmly on her hips, her eyes sharp with judgment. "Enough lying around," she snapped. "You've caused enough trouble. Get your things, we're leaving." Alina blinked, unsure if her exhaustion was making her mishear. "Leaving? Rosa, I just gave birth." The doctor said. Doctors babble to sound important, Rosa cut in. "You're young, you'll recover at home. My son doesn't need you occupying a hospital bed like some fragile princess." The sting of those words spread through Alina faster than pain. She clutched her tiny daughter, still swaddled and sleeping peacefully against her chest. "Please," she whispered. "Not now." But Rosa was already in motion. She grabbed the half-packed maternity bag, shoving items inside aggressively, muttering under her breath about ungrateful brides and unnecessary drama. Alina watched helplessly, her heart pounding as Rosa moved toward the crib, reaching as if she intended to lift the newborn out. Panic rose instantly, fierce, overwhelming, maternal. "Stop!" Alina cried, surprising even herself with the strength in her voice. "Don't touch my baby." Rosa paused mid-reach, startled, then twisted her mouth into a cold, mocking smile. "Your baby. She's our family's baby. And I will take her out of here myself if you keep acting like a spoiled child." Alina's breath hitched. Her body was too weak to defend herself physically, and fear wrapped around her like a rope pulling tight. She thought of calling for a nurse, but her voice felt trapped behind the lump in her throat. Just as Rosa extended her arms again, the door to the room swung open. Not gently, with purpose. A tall woman in a dark blazer stepped inside, followed by a nurse and a uniformed security officer. Rosa spun around, startled as if caught stealing. The woman introduced herself as Mira Shaw, the hospital's patient welfare officer. Her gaze was steady, professional, and cool enough to stop Rosa mid-breath. "We received a report of interference in this room," she said calmly. "Is there a reason you are attempting to remove a recovering patient without authorization?" Rosa sputtered, looking from Mira to the nurse, to the officer. I am the grandmother," she protested weakly. "I have every right." "You have no right to interrupt medical care," Mira replied. "And absolutely no right to touch the newborn without the mother's consent." The officer stepped closer, not threatening but undeniably authoritative. The nurse gently helped Alina adjust her pillow and check the baby's breathing, offering reassurance with her touch. Rosa stood stiffly, her confidence draining like water through clenched fingers. But the final blow came when Mira added, with quiet precision, "You're rushing to the wrong station. Decisions here belong to the medical staff and the mother, not to you." The words landed hard. Rosa's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had no cutting remark, no snide comeback, no authority left to wield. She simply stepped back, shock freezing her speech. While this tense confrontation unfolded in the hospital, another battle was erupting live on television. JD Vance and Piers Morgan sat across from each other in a studio that felt charged with silent electricity. The interview started controlled but quickly descended into a verbal duel. Morgan's interruptions became sharper, his tone increasingly hostile, but Vance refused to be cornered. With calm precision, he dismantled Morgan's claims one by one, presenting facts the host didn't expect him to know. The breaking point came when Vance revealed documentation contradicting Morgan's earlier statements, exposing them as selectively edited. The studio air shifted, even the crew sensed it. Morgan attempted to regain footing, but Vance pressed harder. "You showed half the truth," Vance said, his voice steady. "And half the truth misleads your viewers." The comment exploded online within minutes. Hashtags trended, clips circulated, and viewers watched in disbelief as Piers Morgan, usually the one in control, struggled speechlessly on screen. Producers abruptly cut the segment, escorting Vance out to diffuse the escalating tension. Two different scenes, two different worlds, but the same unexpected ending. Those who pushed the hardest, who tried to control everything, suddenly found themselves unable to speak at all.